Okay. Yeah, I'm going to leave this here now, leave the houses. So we already have thing now. This is our last class, but I wanted to show you a couple of things. We've got to go, we've got to look at the biography, but I wanted to show you, well, maybe we'll just do the biography first, the chronology first. Just look at across this chronology, and we'll come back to it with the 8-year graph. So, I mean, by the time he met Freud, by the time Freud met Jung, he's already 50 some odd years old and really established in his life. It's not like he was, but Jung was very young and just beginning to study and beginning to learn and formulating his ideas. So really it was a teacher-student relationship. But, okay. One second, please. Okay. Okay, so 50, 60, born 58, 59 to 1859 to 1860, the family had financial difficulties and they moved to Leipzig. And soon thereafter to the Austrian capital, settling in Vienna, in Vienna's Leopoldstadt Jewish district in 1860, where he stayed for most of the rest of his life. In 65, Freud entered gymnasium secondary school, where he becomes an outstanding student and graduates with the top diploma in 73. So he had good teachers to graduate. Like he begins his medical studies at Vienna. He conducted medical research in Trieste and returns to Vienna to work in physiology. Okay, with Ernst Wilhelm Bruck. I know I didn't pronounce that right. Anyways, 1879, he serves his compulsory 1 year of military duty, gets his medical degree in 1881. So this is early stuff. I'm just going over so we have a fix on him. In 1884 to 1887, he did research and experimentation with cocaine. Go figure. Okay, so he publishes the monograph on coca. But his attempt to cure a morphine-addicted friend with doses turns out badly. They don't say what it is. It didn't work. So he tried to cure someone with morphine by using cocaine, and it didn't work well. So that was like a difficult lesson, 84, 87. So it'd be interesting. We could have just done the chart on that time and got into it to see that. It didn't. He starts his private practice in 86 and marries in 86. They have 6 children. Last born was Anna Freud in 1895, who became a leader in field of child psychology. Okay, so 1887 was his first use of hypnosis. And 1887 is just after he got through the bad experiments with trying to use cocaine to cure morphine. That was the beginning of his first use of hypnosis. And he meets Wilhelm Fleiss, whom Freud later develops his first ideas on psychoanalysis and the Oedipus complex. Okay. So we didn't talk that much of natal chart, but that moon in the 8th house trying to understand and think about the deep feelings. And he's trying to rationalize the deep feelings. How come they're of anger, of whatever? And he could easily see mom's to blame or mom's the one react. He would see those sides of things. And we'll get more into this. But I know I didn't go through the planets in the houses. I knew I was missing. So this is a stupid Mercury retrograde. Anyways, we'll come back and we'll go through the planets in the houses. But we'll go through this first. So in 96, so in 91, he moved to a new home in Bergast in Vienna, photo below, where he lived for the next 47 years. In 1886, the first use of the term psychoanalysis. Die Psychoanalyse der Astrology der Hysteria. And that's the name of the book. Freud's father, Jacob, dies that year too. So he started using the term psychoanalysis, started from hypnosis to psychoanalysis, and he gets the term self-analysis in 87. He starts altering some of the theories on neuroses that he had developed. In 1899, he publishes his book, The Interpretation of Dreams. And many consider that to be the true beginning of psychoanalysis, the understanding of dreams, why you have the feelings, why you've taken these impressions, and why they're going on, what's happening, and seeing how it's affected. And he would put it to a sexual foundation on something you've done. 1909, he traveled to the U.S. with Carl Jung. He met Carl Jung, and then he traveled to Jung, became a student. They went to the U.S. to give lectures together, and they stayed together about 4 years. In 1913, he published Totem and Taboo, offering the theory that society is based on universal prohibition against incense, contrary to Jung's research. 1920, his elder daughter died. Then 1922, he gets gum cancer, probably from the cigars, but he got gum cancer, which bothered him throughout his whole life. In the 30, he got the Goethe Prize from the city of Frankfurt. His mother died, age of 95. 32, Hitler comes to power in Germany, and by 33, his books are publicly burned by the Nazis. He celebrates his 80th birthday in 36 in Vienna. By 38, 36 by 38, Hitler and Nazis had annexed Austria. Freud and his family flee to England. And he only lived another year, died in England. Okay, so this is the biography I got. I must have got it from Wikipedia, I think. Yes, I got it from Wikipedia. And we'll come back to this. But that's the basic thing. What we're going to come back to is the part when he was with Carl Jung. And look at that. Those are the 8 years we're going to be looking at. Okay, we'll put this here. I'll bring this back. We'll just look at the chart, the natal chart again. First, the moon. That moon, we talk about the moon, the intellectualizing the feelings of the moon, taking a feeling, taking a dream, taking a mood, and analyzing it, intellectualizing it, almost de-feeling it. Generally, moons get curious, but they're not necessarily sympathetic. They're just figuring things out. Curious. But that moon has it's in the same sign as Saturn, but it's fairly wide apart, but they're both in the 8th house. So there's a serious element would come in, but not really intense on that point. The moon is one aspect, square to Neptune. Okay, that's the most gullible, dreamy, confused past. His memories would have a lot of confusing memory, a lot of dependencies and codependencies in the family in the past. Stayed together 47 years in one place, but there would have been, it's half the addictive, half the dependent, there's a lot of confusion. How do I live? What should I do? How should I be? So his taking in impressions, the setting side of that moon, he's taking in impressions deeply, and he's profoundly affected by them. So he would get incredible dreams. And then they would puzzle him. This is a point of sorrow, it's a compassion, but it's in the Neptune's, the compassionate side, the Mercury, the Gemini is mercurial one, it's intellectual. So it's, there's a gullibility here, a naiveness that his whole nature will be fighting to overcome, to not deal with, a vulnerability. And let me just go back here. I wish I knew, I haven't read his whole biography about his early life and that, but for sure, having the Jewish family, having the Jewish traditional family, and feeling obliged to it, his analysis interpret things against that background, and yet through his life there certainly was persecution in his life because of being Jewish, because of his past, of his family. And yet he wasn't someone to run necessarily from it. He stayed in one place, kept it simple until the Nazis came and he had to move. But I'm not sure, I have no idea how much prejudice or other things might have come into his life, but certainly there's a aloneness or aloofness or a need to be dedicated, but with a gullibility, a tendency to feel too much. So as soon as he would feel too much, he would get lost in his feelings, and he'd be working overtime with the Gemini mind to analyze it, to think about it. As soon as he started thinking about the feelings, his Mercury is in Taurus, is practical, down to earth. And his Mercury would be trying to see it in terms of relationships, who did this, where did this idea come, how come this, and he'd be practically trying to get a handle on why these irrational or these profound feelings. So it's interesting because when we see the things between Jung and Freud, he was against all the psychic or the mystical things that Freud was getting into. He's trying to make it practical, but you can see here why. He had all those sensitivities, but for him, they disoriented the mind. They were weakening or disoriented factors, not clarifying situations, making things more complicated, more dependent, more confused, more guilt-ridden. So he would have a great sensitivity to guilt. He wouldn't want to be guilty for anything, but he could be very quick to judge and to blame. So his feelings, it's psychic, but in a way he would pick up these feelings from other people to a very extreme degree, more than he could necessarily deal with. And his Mercury, his Gemini moon would be rationalizing, intellectualizing it rather than feeling it. So he would develop an ability to avoid these deep mystical feelings. It's not that he didn't have them. He would see them as the guilt or the blame in his life. So, but you could see probably a lot happened when he felt he could help someone's addiction to morphine by giving him cocaine. Whoa, that's a big jump. You know, to be able to make that jump and to see that it wasn't going to work. We know that today. But you start wondering, was it just a medical knowledge of reading about these things that he would do this? Probably, because like he's too. This has an addictive side to it. If he got a bad habit, it's hard to get rid of the bad habit. Okay, and but this Neptune confusing the home, the family, the feelings. It's in the 8th house to trust. Who's trustworthy, who's not. He would be devoted. He would be devoted to his family, the Neptune, to almost to a fault. But yeah, so it's a puzzle. But you get to see, you see this. His ability to analyze his feelings is going to work to avoid the confusions to his feelings, the irrational, the dreamy. That's the Neptune squaring the moon. Quite incredible. He would never write a book, Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, which Jung did. He'd be trying to, well, how come I had that weird dream? How come that's out of, like, whoa, that, like, and he would be working on the phobias and fantasies of his dreams. So his famous book is on his analysis, interpretation of dreams and what they may mean. So inside those deep dreams, he would see who was getting hurt, who was being loved, what was rejection, what was worthwhile, what was not, or what actions were being done that diminished one's sense of self-worth and trust, and how the repercussions of that would come. And he tries to see practical ways to deal with that. Incredible. I mean, this is where astrology is like poetry. When you're looking at a person, their experience, we're just taking this design and looking at it, but when we're relating it to the, I shouldn't say it in this, to the synchronicity of things, to the coincidence that this was going on, and this was what he was processing, and this, look at what he wrote, and look what he did. You're seeing the seeds and the sources of Freud. We see the sexual interaction, but you see perhaps the fear or the loss or the guilt of confusing, of losing bearings, of not seeing something clearly. Whew. So with that, there might be aversion to getting too close to him. So he would have his home world, in a very distinct pocket, hidden away or separate from the rest of his world.